How's it going, universe? Welcome to another daily movie review, and we're continuing on with spooky season. Today, we're going to be taking a little bit of a detour. Still somewhat in the same spirit of Halloween, right? We're going to be talking about Little Monsters from 1989, specifically the Vestron Classics Collector's Edition Blu-ray that came out very recently. The film was directed by Richard Greenberg. It's written by Terry Rossio and Ted Elliott. The film stars Fred Savage, Howie Mandel, Daniel Stern, Margaret Whitten, Rick Ducommun, there you go, Frank Whaley, Ben Savage, Devin Ratray, and others. The logline plot synopsis is: a boy discovers an incredible and gruesome world of monsters under his bed. That kind of undersells it, but it's also fair. It's also representative of the movie. So I saw this when I was a kid. I think like most people did. It had been years. I don't even know if I saw it more than one time. I feel like I remember watching it with my parents, and my parents not liking it. My parents went through like a weird phase when I was really young, being kind of ultra Catholic. And very selectively though. You know, we're watching Terminator 2, but like something like Little Monsters, and maybe they're right, is slightly more insidious, a little more subversive, if you will. They probably didn't like the way that the monsters act, right? Because they're supposed to be cool. Kids might emulate the behavior of the monsters. Howie Mandel over there acting a fool, peeing in kids' apple juice jars. Wild stuff. So it had been a long time, so much so that I barely remembered the movie. Although it was weird, I remembered like a lot of the aesthetics. I remembered the way the movie looked. I remembered a lot of the characters. But the actual story and whatnot, I could not remember at all. I had no recollection of. I did remember Howie Mandel peeing in that apple juice jar. That stuck with me. So maybe I did see it a couple times. I must have. If I remember that, that's a weird thing to keep with you for like 26 years or however long it's been since I've seen this. Maybe it was in the trailer or something. I feel like I probably owned a movie that had the trailer for this, and I probably saw the trailer like 100 times. That could be the culprit. Because I just don't remember watching it very often. But hey, neither here nor there. Memorable scene. Either way. So coming back to it as an adult, I was curious. And I'm a collector. I'm a movie collector. So this is $10. This was like or $12 at Walmart, and I'm gonna bite on that. I'm gonna bite on a boutique release for like $12. Now, if this is the future of boutique releases, these reasonably priced releases, I'm all game. Granted, it's not like a new transfer. It's not like a super good 4K transfer or anything like that. They go back to the original negative and really cleaned up Little Monsters. No, I mean, it's upscaled. It's high def, but it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough looking. I mean, I feel like this is another outlet that does kind of the same thing. MVD. They have like their MVD Rewind collection, which I talked about split second. I actually also have their version of Double Dragon, which we'll have to talk about someday. But they're a little rough. They look a little rough. If you just want to own the movie, is it the best the movie's ever looked? Probably. I don't even know if Little Monsters got a DVD release. Honestly, I have no idea. Like, that's how far out of left field for me to have Little Monsters is. But anyways, so coming back to it as an adult, trying to think about if I was a kid and I watched this, I was kind of surprised how good the first act is, how melancholy it is, and how much time it actually takes to kind of like build the main characters and build like the family dynamic and their paradigm and what they're going through. It does a really great job of that. And it also has that like 80s kids movie thing where like basically the message is like, so kids, your parents are going through a divorce. I feel like that's the subtext of every fucking kids movie from the 80s. Is your parents are getting divorced, or they have been recently divorced, or something like that. I mean, from the Goonies to the Lost Boys to Little Monsters, like that's kind of one of the big parts of the story. And it's no different here. Like I said, Little Monsters, secretly about divorce and about dealing with that. It does a really great job. And then once the monster stuff actually starts, it becomes slightly less interesting, believe it or not. I want to say, though, I think it's really inventive and it's super creative, and I love the aesthetic, and I love the way it looked. I love the monster designs. I actually even like the way the underworld looked. I like the idea that it's kind of like a child child's id. You know what I mean? Like it kind of has that kind of feeling about it, where it's all like junk food and anarchy and chaos and playing games wherever you want. It's actually, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, if you see the original Ninja Turtles movie from like 1990, when you would go to the Foot Clan base and they were having all those kids there, those future Foot Clan members, and they're all like eating pizza and candy and smoking cigarettes and playing pinball and arcade games. That's kind of what the vibe of the monster world is in Little Monsters. And I feel like it kind of just spends too much time there without introducing like a central threat or something to fight back against, or like a through line. You kind of gets lost. Like the subtext of the movie, which is clearly about kids kind of dealing with the notion of divorce, but it doesn't build it into the actual fantasy element enough where it feels like there's something being paralleled in the monster world. And as the story goes, you find out the more time you spend there, the more likely you are to turn into a monster. And that's kind of part of some of the evil plan that gets revealed towards later in the movie. But it almost comes too late. Like I would have liked it to feel like there was something that at least maybe clue the audience into the nature of what is going on, even if we didn't know for the characters, or even if the characters didn't know, so that we could be afraid for them. It could build some tension. And then it kind of brings it together, I would say, pretty well at the end. Like I said, missing that kind of tension for so much in the movie is a little bit of a drag. But I thought about it. I was like, if I was a kid, I would probably have a lot of fun with this movie. I would be like appropriately scared. I would laugh where I'm supposed to laugh. It's very childish, very goofy. Howie Mandel is a little grating as an adult watching him. He's a little grating. He's a little much, a little extra, if you will. But if I was like, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 years old when I watched this movie, probably would have worked for me. Because it's kind of one of those performances that you could imagine somebody like, if this had a bigger budget or it came out a few years later, probably would have been like Jim Carrey. Like it's that kind of like Jim Carrey in the Grinch or something, or Cat in the Hat, God forbid, Jesus. But it's kind of has, or not, it's Mike Myers in Cat in the Hat rather. But you know what I'm talking about. Those Dr. Seuss movies that only people my age tend to even tolerate. It's got that vibe to it, that flavor of a performance where he's a comedic actor and he's swinging for the fences and he's being super over the top and chewing scenery and not necessarily in a bad way. Like I get what they're going for. And I think, there's a broad comedy for kids, and I do like that the kids movies of this era, something like this, Monster Squad comes to mind. They're not afraid to be a little dark. They're not afraid to be a little scary. I think kids need it's like a healthy thing to engage with when you're a kid, Get a little scared sometimes. And some of that really works really well in this movie. The guy who plays Snick, who's kind of ends up being the central antagonist, is Rick Ducommun, who's a great Canadian actor. I actually didn't know but he passed away in 2015, and he was in some of my favorite movies growing up. Groundhog Day, The Burbs. He's like, he's Tom Hanks' neighbor. Spaceballs. He's just great. He's great. And I was really, really bummed to see that he had passed away, because he's one of these great character actors that just shows up and is able to just kind of nail it. He's a great kind of like everyman goofball guy. He plays like a great sleaze when he needs to play a sleaze, but there's something like super just eminently likable about him. And you just don't find that every day. So I was really bummed to hear that he had passed away. And then it's got the Savages, Fred and Ben Savage. Oh my gosh. Wonder Years, Boy Meets World. Star making turns right here. Daniel Stern. Oh my gosh. Daniel Stern. Remember when he used to be like a wholesome-ish dads? That was like how he started his film career. He did, was it Frankenweenie, the short film, the Tim Burton short film? I think he's also the dad in that. Yeah, there you go, a little trivia for you. Yeah, it's kind of got a little bit of a Monsters, Inc. vibe. I was reading some trivia, and it's like, well, Pixar has never said that Little Monsters is an inspiration, but it wouldn't be a surprise, which I guess wouldn't be the first time Pixar has kind of dipped from somebody else's well there. But yeah, it definitely has a lot of the same kind of beats, especially when you first get introduced to the monster world And when Fred Savage and Howie Mandel's Maurice are kind of like playing pranks, that's what you find out. That's what monsters do. They come to your house at night and they play pranks on you and they spook you, et cetera, et cetera. So it's got a lot of similarities to what goes on with like Sully and Boo in Monsters Inc. for a little bit while there. Monsters Inc., a much better movie. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to tell you that Little Monsters is better than Monsters Inc. because it's not. Maybe better than Monsters University, though. I'm not a big fan of that movie. But, yeah. What else could I say about this? Like I said, I think if you're a kid or if you have kids, it would be an interesting movie to show them. There is definitely, it is very much of its time. Like, you don't see, at least in the modern day, you don't see a lot of, characters in kids' movies smoking, per se. For example, rather. Then there's also, there's like a couple weird, like, crass jokes that I don't even understand what the fuck the point was. There's a scene where Maurice, Howie Mandel, pantses Fred Savage. And, like, there's, like, this little monster behind him. He's like, nice ass. It was, like, weird. And it's it does not play. It just lands completely flat. Maybe that's because we're in a post-cuties generation now. We just, like, look at that stuff. You're like, oh, shit, what's going on here? What happened to you, Fred Savage? You okay? Are you okay? Because Howie Mandel kind of gives me the creeps. Not going to lie. Out of the makeup. I find him more likable as Maurice. More likable as Bobby from Bobby's World. Remember that show? Remember fucking Bobby's World? Fucking blow your mind, dude. I grew up in the 90s, buddy. Know all about that Howie Mandel. Yeah, it's like a weird scene that just does not play. It's just like weirdly adult things in here that they don't even try to like kind of hide. There's not implication. It's just like openly adult. Which is weird. Some of that did not play super well. So maybe watch it with parental advisory, perhaps. So you can explain to your children that it is not cool when monsters pants you and other monsters comment on your rear end. It's not cool. Never has been, never will be. You heard it here first, folks. Yeah. Definitely interesting revisit, for sure. Like I said, very creative. It's interesting on that level, just for what it is. It's like a weird time capsule from the late 80s going into the 90s. And for that, I kind of appreciated it. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to know more about Zoobox, there's a bunch of links in the description. If you'd like to make a recommendation, throw it in the comments. We'll see what we can do. All right, everybody. Goodbye.